Hi, Nick Huston here for Gotham Sound and Communications. Today we are going to be unboxing the new Sound Devices 833. And it makes a great drum, so right off the bat we know it's good. So as you may understand from an unboxing video, this is sealed. We haven't looked at it, we haven't touched it yet, so we're just going to kind of go through it, and you'll be seeing it live as I do. So forgive any misinformation, ers, ums, and other things. But we do have a new razor blade, so that should cut through everything and hopefully not any of my appendages. So far, so good. All right, open it upside down. Here we go. All right, so in the box, we've got the actual 833 itself. It comes with a power supply, isn't that exciting? It also comes with a little antenna. I assume that is the Bluetooth antenna. And then it also has warranty, registration information, and all that fun stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and leave the power supply in the box because we don't need it for right now because we have another one. But it is a TA4F power supply, which is the new standard on both the Scorpio and now the 833. So let's get into the 833 and see what we got. All right, standard Sound Devices packaging. As I said, this is our demo unit, so now available for looking at and playing with and testing and renting and all the things here in Gotham Sound, New York and Atlanta. So we'll start out just by plugging in, because I like plugging things in overhead. There we go. So there's the TA4F connector right there. So we'll just go ahead and plug in there. If you didn't know, Sound Devices switched over to the TA4F connector because it can provide a higher current than the Hiroshi connector. And given how much the Scorpio and the 833 are doing, including charging onboard batteries, it needed that higher current. So that's why it's a new spec and not Hiroshi. So let's look at the inputs first, because why not? So big difference, it looks pretty similar to the side of the 633. You'll notice there's 3 XLR ins with 3 TA3 ins. One big difference here is that every single input on this side is mic line switchable. So instead of having 3 that are line level only, you have actual 6 actual preamps in it. You've got a port for headphones and a headset, so you can have a headset mic, and then also a comm return, so you've got full comms on this, which is pretty exciting. If we look at the output side, we'll see there's that antenna port right there. Got our timecode I/O, another headphone port, a bunch of outputs, so 2 TA3s for X1, X2, AUX1, X2, X3, X4 on a stereo mini. A return, and the return can be used as a return from a camera, or in a pinch, if you need 2 additional inputs, you can record those 2 tracks right there. So you would get your 6 inputs from the left side and 2 additional inputs for 8 on the right side. You've got left and right out, which are can be either analog, line mic, or AES. You've got your 2 SD card slots, SD1 and SD2, and 2 USB ports. So USB for interfacing with a tablet or with a computer or with a control surface. In the back, I'm holding it upside down, but in the back you've got 2 ports for Sony L series. There's no Dante on this. It's just a little too small for that and wouldn't have the track count for it anyway. And if we take a look at the front, we've got our trim pots for inputs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then you've got fader pots for 1, 2, 3. And then you see these smaller ones that kind of pop in and out here for 4, 5, and 6. So you've got 6 actual pots on the front and 6 actual trim pots on the front, so that you don't have to go into the menu for any of those things where you prefer to have a hard switch. You've also got your pre-fader buttons, pre-fade 1 and 4, 2 and 5, 3 and 6. Similar layout to the 6 series. Big red knob like the Scorpio for all your transport controls, record, play, fast forward, rewind, and then a couple of multi-function buttons here, mic and tone, these star ones are settable in the menu, your return or headphone favorites, and then more menu settings. So let's go ahead and turn it on. I really want to know. So one interesting thing about the top, if you come in real close, that I noticed here, there's this little cutout. And under this little cutout, first of all, the cutout's magnetic, is this, which that looks like the little port for a ribbon cable on maybe an SL6, maybe the long-awaited SL4 that people have been begging for. I don't know, but it's there. And it goes back on. Okay, so we'll turn it on. And it glows blue, and it turns on. Sound device is 833. Okay, perfect. So on the main menu, we'll do another live on-air zoom just to look at the menu here. There we go. Okay, great. So you've got your left and right, and then you've got channels 1 through 8 here, which that is interesting. You got your time code and your A time, your recording sample rate, and frames per second, what you're listening to, and then looks like you actually have a level for your return too, so that's cool. You've got your media up there. So right now we just have the SSD, which has 99 hours because nothing is armed except the left and right track. It does have a 256 gig SSD drive in here, and then also you can see grayed out. You've got the SD card 1 and SD card 2. So just for fun, we'll plug an MKH50 into it. And a 50, it's a 50. Okay, so we'll plug it into input 1, just to prove that we can pass audio. Another live on-air zoom out. Okay, so let's go into the menu control here. So first we'll bring up our level. So no level yet, so that probably means that something is off. So we've got mic 1, and we're just going to use our multifunction button here to change this to mic 1 and turn on 48 volt phantom. And there we go. So now you can see that we've got our level indicator there. And we've got something crashing in the background, so that's pretty exciting. But yeah, so this is the main input menu. See, we've got channel 1 there. So all of these different things, we're not going to go through everything because it is very similar to what we've already seen in the Scorpio, same kind of layout. But that's where we do our selection. We can do microphone linking. We can add a delay. We can add a delimiter. We can have it be, change the ISO, turn on the EQ, flip the phase, and do the outputs, all by scrolling here, and then arm and disarm the tracks as well as pan left and right. So we'll go back out further, and there, so now we see we have our individual levels, and we can pot up, and we can put it in the mix. So that's pretty exciting, so that works. And if we wanted to record it, we can just pop up, hit record, your track name pops up there. We haven't set a track name, so that's why it's recording as track 1. But the it looks red in person. On the monitor I'm looking at now, it looks orange. So that is interesting. We can change our meter views here by pushing the meter button. Oops, meter button here. So let's say we wanted to do it like that, where we're just looking at the ISOs. We could do that, or we could do outputs, all sorts of options for track metering. Okay, so let's stop that. And we'll just go through the menu and see if there's anything new and noteworthy that we should know about. And Joe, if you have anything new and noteworthy that you want to highlight, please let me know. But we've got our power menu here, and we see spaces for the 2 back batteries. I feel like we're mildly out of focus. Maybe we are. I'll zoom in and maybe make it a little bit more readable. There we go. Okay, so we've got places for our 2 Sony L series batteries. We've got our external 12 volt DC, and then we've got our timecode battery. So if we were to pull this, it would die. But the timecode would stay going. So important to have at least 1 battery on there as a backup for battery changes and things like that. Good to know. All right, so let's get back into that menu. We've got our power. So we've got what does it do on the next thing, switch to the next supply. Do you want to charge the battery? Yes or no? And do you want to be outputting voltage on the USB port? Now, one thing that I think is interesting about the battery charging is we talked about battery charging takes up a lot of, can take up a lot of power. So if you are looking to go through a BDS that maybe has a limit on the output of its power, like let's say 2.5 amps, you maybe would not want to go through the BDS and charge batteries from an external battery. So it might be something you want to turn off because it may blow the fuse in your BDS. Or you may just want to plug in an external battery separately if you're going to be charging from that. Obviously, the onboard batteries are, unless you're using it as your primary, the onboard batteries would be your backup. So you don't necessarily have to have them charging from your main battery because it's just going to kill your battery. So it might be something that you either take it off and use a separate charger, or once in a while you plug it in and have it charge with an external power supply, which is included. Okay, so we got our channel set up. So we can do, phantom power voltage, pre-fade mode, channel grouping, pre-fade listen. Channels 7 and 8. So we can configure channels 7 and 8 because there's no switch over here like there is for 1 through 6. So let's see what's in there because this is different. Interesting. So you can change the trim. Oh, interesting. Yeah. So this is where you set your gain for that. You can change your source so you actually can have it be the returns, or you can have it be any of the mic line switches. So that's interesting. So conceivably, if you had a digital signal coming in on AES, you could get an extra mic line switchable signal out of that. So that's neat. Yeah, that's neat. So maybe you could actually do 7 on your full inputs and then do the 8th on that one. Okay, what else do we have? Linking, delay, limiter, all the same kind of things. No phantom power. Obviously it's a mini, so it's not a balanced signal. And you can arm and disarm here, but it's powered off, so we have to find out where that power is. Does this power it on? That powers it on. So bringing the trim up powers it on. Okay, that's 7 and 8. Bus setup, very similar to the new Scorpio, where you've got 8 buses that you can route anywhere, anytime, anything. So you can do pre, post, or send. So we won't go too deep into that either. We've got our outputs, so you can again fully route X1, X2, where you can either route a bus, multiple ISOs or outputs, pre or post fader, change the delay, the gain, all those things. Again, very similar to the Scorpio. You can adjust the limiters. There's a whole bunch of limiter stuff here. Oh boy. So if you really like to fine tune your limiters and you have a thing that you like, awesome. And this has auto mix shipping from the get-go. So not only you have the Dugan auto mixer, that's all you got, Dugan auto mixer, and then you would select the channels that you want to have auto mix. So you can do all the way up through 7 and 8. So conceivably, if you needed to use 7 and 8 and you needed 7 and 8 in the mix, auto mix would be a really good way to do that over the shoulder. Yeah.
We have a question from Matt asking, are the mini jacks locking?
The mini jacks are not locking. It's a little bit hard to see. They do have a tiny bit of a thread here. I'll try and focus on that. They do have a tiny bit of a thread here. I would not count on that being enough to get a good solid connection on a locking connector. And if I'm wrong, strike me down, but that's my impression. Okay, great. Anything else, Matt? And thank you for your question. Okay, great. All right, back to the menus. We're lined up. All right, so that's auto mixer. So that's exciting. That's shipping right from the get-go. So we'll turn that back off. Meters, this is the same menu that we saw by pushing this button here. We got our time code sync. I think we're there. Pretty standard timecode menu. You got your mode, frame rate, whether or not you want to hold it, jam it, generator, timecode, user bits, LEMO options. What's that? Cool. Aha. So this you can change 2 different pins. So you can either have it be timecode in, word clock in, or word clock out. So it does have word clock. And you can do the same thing there. So if you wanted this to, let's say, be a timecode master and a word clock master, you could set this to be TC out and this to be word clock out, or you could do it the complete opposite, where you could have it be a timecode and word clock slave. No, interesting. Word clock in. That's a little wacky. Okay. Well, it looks like it can be a word clock master and a timecode master, but it cannot do word clock in and timecode in all at once. So that's different. And then in terms of that, let's hold on. This may be different. So sync reference, if we change this to word clock, everything's freaking out. Word clock in. Nope, didn't help at all. So that seems like that might be something that could change. We'll see. All right, in terms of record and play, here's your record and play menu. So you've got your sample rate, bit depth, pre-roll time, post-roll time, track to media routing. So you can select which tracks go where. So if you wanted to record everything to your SSD, but only do a mix to one SD card for one post, and then do another mix for let's say sound post, you can have different cards that go different places. And you can change the format between Wave RF64 and Broadcast Wave, between all of these. And the default playback drive. And what else do we have? We have our files. So we can do USB file transfer. We can look at all the takes we've done. And we can also edit the next, we can edit our name, and we can edit the channels from here as well. We can look at our files from this kind of media menu. So we've got our SSD, SD cards, etc. We can change the file name format, so we can have it be scene. We can change the kind of marker in the middle and take, and we can change project slate and take as well. I'll enter sound report information, scene increment mode if you wanted to enable that. So if you wanted to have it automatically go, you could. Take reset mode. So let's see. So that'll be scene or folder. I wonder what that means. And then you can erase your media from here. Full comm setup. We don't have any comm setup, so I'm not going to get too much into that, but you can change where the comm is coming from. So if you have a slate mic, you can tell it to go from the external mic or an external 12-volt mic, so you can have a powered microphone if you want. Adjust the mic gain, adjust the routing, and then the comm routing, and all sorts of gain for the return as well. System settings, so tone setup, notification bells. So that will tell you where the bells are going and what it's doing. So it'll warn you when recording stops, when power gets low, when space gets low, or if there's any other warning pop-up. So you can select which one you actually want to hear. So rather than watching the screen, you can be watching your mix, your levels if you're using an external mixer, or watching the monitor, and you'll hear if there's a problem if you want. I'm not going to calibrate the faders, but that's neat. You can calibrate time code, neat. Brightness, date and time, toggle switch. That's this guy right here. I have a
question about brightness here. Matt has a follow-up saying how it compares to the 633. He said that it's hoping to be better than that in sunlight. Sound Devices fact sheet does suggest that it is improved. So maybe we can either do a comparison for you, Matt, and post a picture or something.
Yeah, I think we would have to do a comparison. I mean, so just anecdotally, it does look brighter, but I can't quantify it, and I can't say that it is brighter because I do not have one right next to me. Be happy to get one and post a picture later on. All right.
Turn the brightness down while you're in there.
No. All right, turning the brightness down. How do you like that? Is that better?
Yes.
Oh, that's so much better. Yeah. As you can see, it's pretty bright. All right, so we have our date and time settings. Toggle switch we talked about. Pre-fade switch, so you can change what that does. So, oh, these are all the different shortcuts, so that's cool. So if you push and hold menu, and then push one of these, it'll bring you to a separate menu. That's neat. You got your version info, regulatory, and then firmware update. And you've got all sorts of stuff for your controllers. So we don't have anything set up there, but there are definitely, we've done videos about how to set up these controllers with the Scorpio. I imagine it's the same thing. And then you can do a quick setup where you load factory settings, load some global settings, or save global settings. So your presets right there. And that is the whole menu. And that is a quick look at the, yeah. Yes, Joe.
Christopher asks us if how many AES ins there are, and are they AES 42?
So there's one AES in right here. And Joe, just fact check me on this, but that's what it's labeled. And according to the sheet, or according to the menu, it's switchable between either AES 42 or AES 3. So when we looked at the menu, let me do this menu here. Let me refocus. There we go. Yeah, so you can see it's either AES 3 or AES 42 right there. And I'll just, since we're here, since we're doing this, I'll just double check and make sure, oh, you can actually assign AES 1 and 2, but it's all in the same input. That's my understanding.
Alan asks us, TC calibration seems like a big deal. No need for AC 501?
Well, the AC 501's been discontinued for a long time. It's more like if there's a problem with the time code, hopefully that means no more need for going back to the mothership or any kind of expensive replacement, that it can actually self-correct. That we should definitely find out more about, but it does seem pretty cool. I'm going to just do it, see what happens. Timecode calibration. I can't do it. Ah, interesting. Okay. So I think I understand, and I think there are other companies that do something like this, where they will lock to the incoming time code, even if it's slightly off of what they're reading. So for what I read this as, and again, I'm just making stuff up as I go along. But what I read this as is if you connect an external source, let's say a camera or a sync box, and then you calibrate the time code to that, it's going to run at exactly the same time code speed as that source, rather than what its known good factory setting is. So if you were dealing with, let's say you showed up without a sync box and there was a camera that wanted to run around, rather than you jamming the camera and constantly worrying about the camera running slow or out of sync or fast or whatever, you could plug the camera in here, calibrate the 833 to the camera, and then have the camera run. I would still change it at batteries whenever the camera changes batteries, but way better.
And does this have any internal AA's like the 6 series?
Has no internal AA's. The only internal power that it has are the L series batteries on the back, which, yeah. So you can put 2 L series batteries here. It's pretty similar. The way I think about it is how the 788 was, where you've just got them on there as backup. You certainly could run them off that. I mean, there's 2 of them, so if you got a couple of big ones, I'm sure they would last for quite some time. But in my mind, it's a backup. So you would have either 1 or 2 little batteries on the back, and then when you do your power change, it just flip it over and you're done.
And Alan asked, how is the 3-band EQ?
Let's take a look at it. I have not used it. I have not used it. So let's go into the menu and see. So as you see, I'm now in the input menu. I'm looking at the EQ, and we'll turn the EQ on. And then we can select let's Let's see. Aha. Interesting. So we can select the frequency that we want for the low frequency, the mid frequency, and the high frequency. We can apply it pre or post fader. I would usually do post fader. And then you can also change the shelf type and the gain and the Q. So we can change that. There we go. So we're changing the Q. And now we're changing the gain. And now we're changing the frequency. And now we're changing the type from either shelved or peaked. So that's looking like how that works.
And Elia asks, is timecode BNC or do they now have HDMI?
Timecode is LEMO. There is no BNC or HDMI on this. This is not necessarily designed, even though it has like mounting ports on the bottom, which I should highlight. So you could, it looks like there are 1/4 mounting points to lock it into a cart or something like that, or even on top of a tripod. I would say this is not designed to feed timecode directly in, or to take timecode directly from a DSLR like the MixPre series. Good? Okay, great. Anyway, so the way I think about the 833, and it's going to get a little confusing because there is a 633 and the 833. This is to the 633 what the Scorpio is to the 688. So this is kind of an upgraded version of the form factor of the 633. It's very similar in size, so if you have it, and very similar in terms of the layout on the side panels. So if you have accessories for the 633 and those last few channels are just driving you crazy because you either need you need full mic preamps to be able to get the amount of latitude you need for your gain structure, this is certainly a thing for you. This also gives you a lot of different options in terms of routing and flexibility and control and all that. There's the new app that works with it. I forget what that's called. It's not Wingman, but it's the new Android app. SD Remote. So there's a new remote control app that does that. So it makes this a much more viable, not only in the bag mixer, but also being able to take it off and put it on a cart if you are going to do 8 channels. If you're going to do 8 channels on a cart. And the internal hard drive is pretty great too. Yes, Joe?
We were asked if we could get this going with a control surface. So maybe we can do one of those in the future?
Yeah, we'll do that in the future. I mean, I think I recommend checking out our YouTube page because I know we've done Scorpio videos with a control surface, and the interaction between this and a control surface is going to look very, 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 very similar to a Scorpio. Good? Okay, great. So we're going to wrap it up now. Thank you for watching. If you want to watch this video again and again and again because you're a glutton for punishment, go to gothamsound.tv. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. If you have any ideas or questions, send them to info@gothamsound.com. Okay, so this Saturday here at Gotham Sound, we are having a Women in Sound panel. There are going to be some great women sound mixers from both production and post with some awesome moderators talking about sound. Talking about sound in the industry and how it relates to them, and maybe some special things about how it relates to women in particular. So if you're interested in that, it is 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. with a little reception afterwards here in Long Island City. Thank you very much for watching.